اهدنا الصراط المستقيم
في قلوبهم مرض فزادهم الله مرضا ولهم عذاب أليم بما كانوا يكذبون وإذا قيل لهم لا تفسدوا في الأرض قالوا إنما نحن مصلحون ألا إنهم هم المفسدون ولكن لا يشعرون رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي فالحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. You know, in these ayat, one thing I didn't mention was the first matter that was mentioned. In sequencing, the first matter that was mentioned was that of the heart. In their hearts there's a disease, and that's a verdict passed by Allah. But when they're criticized, they're not criticized for what they have in their hearts because that's impossible. So what is said to them is a matter of action. Don't cause corruption in the earth, because action can't be judged. And that's further reinforcing the idea that a disease in the heart like hypocrisy is not something up to us to judge. But if somebody is clearly engaged in corrupt action, it needs to be called out. And a typical hypocritical response is a self-righteous one. Regardless, then the next thing that is said to them is, well, if your iman and our iman is the same, obviously, if what's on the inside is the same, what's on the outside should be the same. You know, if it's the same seed, inside the same soil, it gets the same sun, it gets the same water, the same kind of produce should happen. So how come your actions are so different from these other people? So then they're not told, you don't have iman, but they've been, what's said to them is, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا كَمَا آمَنَ النَّاسُ. When it's said to them, believe like everybody else has. Like people have believed too. We're not any different. And this is actually, interestingly, a statement of camaraderie. Like they're being almost encouraged. Come on, look, everybody else is doing it too. You can do it also. It's not like they're being, pushed away and being labeled. But actually the language used is positive. And so their response, it gets further worse. You know, the first response was a self-righteous one. Not only is it self-righteous, now their hatred and their attitude of being condescending to the other is exposed. So it goes further. قَالُوا أَنُؤْمِنُوا كَمَا آمَنَ السُّفَهَاءُ. They say, we should believe like these idiots have believed. These fools have believed. They're not very intelligent at all. And interestingly enough, here it didn't even say كَمَا آمَنَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ كَمَا آمَنَ النَّاسِ, like people have. Even the ones that are saying it to them are saying, look, it's not that hard. Everybody can do it. People can do it. And they didn't highlight the best of the Sahaba or anything like that. It's just a general thing. It's not very difficult. But their response is that they call those who have made sacrifices stupid. And we need to understand why they did that. Why they use this kind of insulting language for the believers. You know, the hypocrites, they're essentially coming into Islam in a way that is very different. Or generally people in Medina are coming into Islam in a way that's very different than how the people in Mecca came into Islam. When people in Mecca came into Islam, their life was taken over by nothing but trouble. I mean, you get nothing worldly for coming into Islam in Mecca. You lose your family ties, you lose your tribal respect, people start calling you crazy, people start assuming you're part of a cult, some magical spell has been cast on you, maybe you're taken over by a jinn also. All kinds of stuff happens to you. You get boycotted in society. Eventually you start getting not just verbally assaulted, but physically assaulted also. And eventually you lose your house and home and you have to migrate. You get nothing worldly out of coming to Islam in Mecca. As opposed to that, the Muslims are a force in Medina. And they're a rising force. From day one, they're in a position of some kind of social recognition and power. So if you see them on the rise, first of all, your Islam is not tested. It's not like you had to give up a lot to become Muslim in Medina. It's a lot easier to become Muslim in Medina. And even if you've come to Islam for genuine reasons, it still hasn't been put to the litmus test yet. Now there are those, the ones that are being highlighted here are those who came to Islam, but they came to Islam seeing that it's something that it's on a trajectory to power. It seems as though it's gaining more and more ground, so it's on the rise. So us joining the winning team will mean we'll get a share in some of its goods also if this progresses. But when they're told that your faith is something that requires sacrifice, why don't you look at the iman that's already been established and the people that have come to believe, that have come here, meaning the Muslims from Mecca, they look at them as fools and idiots. These people left their home. They had so much going for them. They couldn't just stay there. You want us to become homeless like them? And this is not the only place they're going to insult the muhajirun. This happens multiple times in the Quran, especially in Surah Al-Hujurat, or Surah Al-Munafiqun actually. لَنُخْرِجَنَّ الْأَعَزُّ مِنْهَا الْأَذَلُّ. We will separate the ones that have authority and respect from those that are humiliated. They call them the humiliated ones. In hadith tradition we find that some of the hypocrites call them the dogs from Makkah. Like they use that kind of insulting language towards them because they're homeless, they're wandering around, etc., etc. So they say that these people are fools. Allah innahum hum sufaha. You Allah, by the way. What's Allah again? Listen up. They're the ones that are the idiots. And let's tie it to what we've already learned. This surah began, and one of the implications of believing in the unseen was whatever they've been provided, whatever we provide them, they spend from it. And that could not have happened until they believed without a doubt. They could not have spent the way they did. What's the greatest example of spending? Spending and giving up entire house and home. Spending everything you have, exhausting everything you have for the sake of Allah's Messenger, in loyalty to Him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, migrating to a new land, where you know you have no stability. You have nowhere to turn to. And you're going there only because the Messenger commands, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they are the greatest example of people who truly know the truth for what it is. And so Allah adds, no, these are the ones that are the fools. However, they have no knowledge. They really don't know. They don't know how stupid they've become by saying this kind of language. The other thing also very beautiful here is they insulted Allah's Messenger's companions, and Allah insulted them back. It's like insulting the Messenger's companions, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in, is an offense to Allah Himself. So He Himself says, أَلَا إِنَّهُمْ هُمُ السُّفَهَاءُ وَلَكِنْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا. Now there's another phase. In private settings, somebody says to them, why aren't you like everybody else? And they say, you want me to be like those fools? Give up everything? No thanks. This is in private settings. But then there's another tone in public settings. When in public settings they say, وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, when they meet those who those who have iman, those who really believe, قَالُوا, they would say, آمَنَّا, we have iman too, We're believers too. We're with you guys. So in private settings they call them fools. And in public settings, we're with you. وَإِذَا خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ, when they go back to their devils. إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ means when they're by themselves and their devils surround them. It also means those that they conspire with. There are some people of the book, some people of the Jews and the Christians, especially the Jews, some among them, that were conspiring against the Muslims. Allah calls them shayateen here. Why? Because shayateen do their evil activities in secret. Right? And shayateen from shatana also means to be overwhelmed with jealousy. To be overwhelmingly jealous is shaitan. So when they go to the really jealous devils, when they go to them, then they say, no, قَالُوا إِنَّا مَعَكُمْ, we're with you. We're with you guys, no doubt about it, trust us, we're with you. And they say the word inna here. Inna, to remove doubt from their friends. Look guys, we're with you, I'm telling you, I'm guaranteeing you. I just got to keep face with them. إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُسْتَهْزِئُونَ. We're just humoring them. We're just joking when we're there. We're just, playing along. This is إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُسْتَهْزِئُونَ. Allahu yastahzi'u bihim. Allah in fact is the one that's poking fun at them. Allah is the one that's humoring them along, letting them keep playing their game. وَيَمُدُّهُمْ فِي طُغْيَانِهِمْ. And He extends them in their rebellion. In other words, this is Allah's punishment for the munafiq, for the hypocrite. He gives him or her more and more and more opportunities to disobey. Gives them a leash. I mentioned this example to you before. The dog that is wild. You put a 1-foot leash on it, it's pulling at the leash, but eventually it gives up. You put that same dog in the middle of a field and you give it a 300-foot leash. For 299 feet, it feels like it's free, running as fast as it can. What happens at the 300th foot? Is the choke hold harder at 1 foot or at 300 feet? 300 feet, it almost dies. It kills. It causes its own destruction. Allah says we loosen their leash. Go. We extend them in their rebellion. Go. It'll hurt even more this way. Dig your hole deeper. Go ahead. Tughyan in Arabic, كل مجاوز حده في العصيان فهو طاغ. Everyone who crosses a line out of an urge to disobey, like you're going to cross the line. Why? Because I can. That's tughyan. This is a tagh. In their rebellion, in their arrogant rebellion, you can argue, they're going to keep extending themselves further. And then there's the word amiha, which is an interesting bit of vocabulary. There's ama in Arabic, ama, the verb ama, or ama is a masdar actually, and ama. They say, al-amahu fil basira kal-ama fil basar. I'll say that again, al-amahu fil basirati kal-ama fil basar. What that means is, ama, that ended with an alif, is a blind of the eye. And amaha, or ama, is blind of insight. You know, there's something you can see with your eyes, that's sight. Something you see with your heart and your mind is insight. It's not something physical, it's something abstract. It's on the inside. Deeper understanding is insight. Amiha, with a ha, is someone blind of insight, blind of the heart, blind of the mind. They cannot see deeper things. They become shallow. So this is al-amahu fil basira kal-ama fil basar. Taraddud la yadri ayna yatawajjah. Taraddudun. At-tajarrud wa-taraddud. Amiha also means to be in doubt and to go back and forth and not be sure which way to turn. Allah says Allah extends them in their rebellion and they're so unsure all the time which way should we go. They have no clarity in direction. People of kufr have big clarity in direction. People of iman have real clarity in direction. The munafiq, no clarity, doesn't know where to turn. وَيَمُدُّهُمْ فِي طُغْيَانِهِمْ يَعْمَهُونَ. By the way, this is actually furthering an image that's already been presented. Allah said, وَعَلَى أَبْصَارِهِمْ غِشَاوَةٌ. And on their eyes there's a veil. Now Allah describes that veil further. That veil keeps them from seeing the truth, and they don't have any direction, they're just going around aimlessly. أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ اشْتَرَوُا الضَّلَالَةَ بِالْهُدَىٰ. Those in fact are the people that have traded misguidance in exchange for guidance. They've purchased misguidance, selling off guidance. The concept of trade, purchasing, buying, selling is a very powerful concept in the Quran. Allah uses it to compare to this world's life and the next world's life and priorities, and He uses the example of trade often. So I want to talk a little bit about that because it sets the stage for whenever it comes up. There's certain ideas that should conjure up in the mind. You know, human beings prefer cash or credit. If you're the salesperson, take cash. You prefer cash because the rewards are immediate. Somebody comes to you and let's say you sell, candy, or you sell fruits. Somebody says, I'll take 10 pounds of your fruit and I'll pay you $20 right now. Somebody else comes along and says, I'll take 10 pounds of your fruit, I'll pay you $25, but I'll pay you next month. So one guy's offering $20 now, and the other one's offering $25 next month. What do you take if you're a good businessman? $20 now is worth way more than $25 next month, bird in hand. Right? It's a bird in hand. This is tijara. Human beings, when they understand trade, they understand the better deal is what you get right away. Allah offers us a deal. I'll give you Jannah. I'll give you a house. I'll give you everlasting youth. I'll give you the best company. Getting a nice house is not hard. Getting a nice house in a good neighborhood is hard. We live in Texas, we know that. You get a nice house in the middle of nowhere, you get it for dirt cheap. You want to get a nice house in an expensive neighborhood, in a safe neighborhood, in a real development, around the expensive HOA, that's hard. That same house, you can have the same house. You put it in the middle of the boondocks, it's worth nothing. You put it in the middle of New York City, it's worth infinite amounts, right? So it's not just a nice house that's being offered to us, it's a nice house with the best possible neighbors, great neighborhood, secure. All of it's being offered to us, now or later. Question is this cash or credit, this transaction that Allah is offering us? It's credit. And in credit, is there a level of trust involved? When someone's selling something, don't they have to trust the customer that's offering it to them? They're saying, I'll take it from you now, I'll take your goods now, and I'll pay you back. You really have to rely, which is why most car dealerships or whoever, if you're going to go on a credit kind of deal, then they'll do background checks, they'll ask for your pay stubs, they'll do all that stuff. Who's offering us this deal? Jannah. Allah is. That means that if someone takes this deal, they have displayed an incredible amount of trust in Allah.
And when you make this kind of deal, you usually have something in writing. You have some kind of receipt. At least you see a picture of what's going to be offered to you. All you get from Allah is His word. That's it. All you get is just trust me. I'll pay you a lot. I'll take care of you. All you have to give me is your life and your money. How long do I have to give it to you? Well, until you die. When do I get my pay? After you die. Once you're being buried in the ground, your payment begins. Oh, that's real credit. I mean, that's long-term payment. You don't get paid right away, you'll get paid way after. Now shaitan comes. Shaitan says, I've got a payment plan too. I'm a customer also. If you listen to me, if you give me your life and give me your money, when am I going to give you rewards? Oh, right now. Cash. One click away. It's right here. Take it. Come on. What you waiting for? Just do it. You know, in marketing and advertising, one of the things we study is point of sale. You know what that is? It's basically a study of how do you take a customer who visits a web page or a customer who walks into a store, how do you make them make the sale, make the purchase right away? How do you get them right then and there? You know what car salesmen do? They don't let you leave the dealership. They'll give candy out, they'll play exciting music, and hey, wait before you go. I just want you to drive it just a little bit, just touch it. Just feel it. Rub it a little. They'll take it for a spin. They just want you to stay. Why? Because they want to make the sale. And to make the sale, you have to make whatever it is very tempting, very beautiful. And so most human beings that naturally have a tendency to go cash and not credit, choose dunya over akhirah. It takes a lot of trust to take akhirah and skip out on dunya. It takes a lot of trust. This terminology is used all the time in the Quran. This is now being used for the hypocrite. They were given a credit deal, but they took misguidance, which to them brought benefits when? Immediately. And they gave it up for guidance, which would have brought benefits when? In the akhirah. They were warding themselves from harm that would have come now, or they thought so, and failed to save themselves from harm that would come forever. This is أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ اشْتَرَوْا الضَّلَالَةَ بِالْهُدَى فَمَا رَبِحَتْ تِجَارَتُهُمْ. Then their trade, there's a difference between saying nafa'at and rabihat. Ribh in Arabic is not just of a trade to be beneficial. I think some translations say their trade did not produce benefit. Rabiha actually means istashaffa. That's the alternative word for it. Istashaffa. Of the deal to go through. Of the deal to reach conclusion. You know how we say, we're going through negotiations, it'll go through in a couple of days. For it to materialize. Allah says their trade didn't materialize at all. They gave their part, they never received on the other end. فَمَا رَبِحَتْ تِجَارَتُهُمْ وَمَا كَانُوا مُهْتَدِينَ. And then Allah gives finally the reason, and they weren't committed to guidance at all. They gave up that guidance and they weren't committed to it at all. Allah mentions that at the end because the hypocrite pretends to be committed to guidance. And Allah says, no, they're not. وَمَا كَانُوا مُهْتَدِينَ. Now the example begins. وَمَثَلُهُمْ كَمَثَلِ الَّذِي اسْتَوْقَدَ نَارًا. Their example can be compared to the likeness of someone who lit a fire. Imagine the middle of the night and there's darkness, people are lost, and there's a fire. Musa alayhi salam is traveling with his family, doesn't know where to go. What does he see? A fire. Now he knows where to go. When a fire comes, then there's light around you. At least you're aware of your surroundings, where you are yourself. So this is the example of the Messenger ﷺ giving them the light of the Quran. He lit a blaze, and in the middle of the dark, a light is now present. Now you can finally have some access to guidance. فَلَمَّا أَضَاءَتْ مَا حَوْلَهُ. Then whatever was surrounding the light, the fire, was lit. When it lit whatever was surrounding it. أَضَاءَ يُضِيءُ comes from ضَوْء. As opposed to anara yuniru, which comes from nur. You've heard the word nur for light before. Daw means light that has heat in it. Allah says, هُوَ الَّذِي جَعَلَ الشَّمْسَ ضِيَاءً وَالْقَمَرَ نُورًا. He made the sun a source of diya, light that has heat in it. وَالْقَمَرَ nur, just light. Light without heat in it. Subhanallah. ضِيَاءً وَنُورًا. So, فَلَمَّا أَضَاءَتْ, with this hot light, because it's a fire, مَا حَوْلَهُ, it lit everything around it. ذَهَبَ اللَّهُ بِنُورِهِمْ. Not بِضَوْئِهِمْ, but بِنُورِهِمْ. Allah took away their nur. So there's a comparison now between Daw and Nur. There's a contrast happening between Daw and Nur. Daw is two things, heat and light. Nur is just one thing, light itself. Nur in Arabic is used for several things, including your eyes. It's also used for your eyesight. It's also used for your eyesight, Nur. Your eyes sparkle. Your eyes reflect light. That's how we're able to see. So the Arabic term for eyes also is Nur. Now there's this hot light around them, and the thing that's taken away is their own eyesight. What good is a fire if you don't have what anymore? You have no sight anymore. ذهب الله بنورهم. Allah took their light away. In other words, revelation came, they came close to the revelation, and they weren't able to appreciate that revelation, and Allah took their power of appreciation away. Made them blind from it. يَعْمَهُونَ, previous example that was given. Now the example of that concept is being given. They have no basira left. They have no vision left. Now a practical example of that's being given. Which also leads to another very important, significant comment in the Quran that has to do with guidance and misguidance. When Allah offers guidance, a good human being listens to it and says, I should take this. Right? I should take this seriously. But let's imagine they don't. Let's imagine they heard something good and they didn't take it seriously. You know, when our human body is made up of muscles, if you don't exercise a muscle, what happens to it? It gets weaker and weaker and weaker until it dies. You know some people that are bedridden, they're bedridden for 6 to 8 or 9 months or a year or 2 years, and they don't move their legs, even though the legs were fine. Because they don't move them for a couple of years, they lose their legs. If you keep your eyes closed for 6, 7 months at a time, you'll go blind. You'll lose it. Allah gave us that muscle, that ability to accept guidance. You don't take advantage of it one time, another time, a third time, a fourth time. Every time you deny that opportunity, your ability to accept guidance gets weaker and weaker and weaker until your light is altogether gone. ذهب الله بنورهم وتركهم في ظلمات. And then He left them in multiple shades of darkness. It's not like they got one problem, they got multiple problems. They've got hypocrisy, they've got fear of creation, they've got greed, they've got anger, they've got jealousy, they've got materialism, they got all this stuff. Lust, darkness on top of darkness, on top of darkness, on top of darkness. Allah left them in that. لا يبصرون. They're not going to be able to see after this. No basira left for them. No basira left. Yubsirun implies basar and basira both. So they can't see and they don't have insight anymore. They're no longer able to think about guidance.